Hey guys, Eric here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Before we tune in to the details today, I have one little favor I'd like to ask you. Are you listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? If you are, and if you haven't done it already, it would be so helpful to Anita and I if you could leave a 5-star review. It could just be putting 5 stars or even writing down something that you really enjoyed and learned from the episodes that you've heard so far. This kind of help would really improve our ability to give you better content and also to help other people find out about Taiwanica. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a few moments to do that if you haven't already, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we really hope you enjoyed today's episode.
This is episode 29, talking about
catastrophic
disasters.
Don't you mean natural disasters?
Exactly.
Welcome to Taiwanica podcast, everyone. Glad to have you here. We are a podcast talking about cultural and natural differences between Taiwan and the USA. We have a very special episode that is very relative to the current events that have been happening in both of these countries. For example, in the USA, we recently had a very giant Hurricane Ian. And also, I don't know why you're laughing.
Because you said hurricane.
And in Taiwan, there have been a few catastrophic earthquakes.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's bad, but it's also a fun topic for us to talk about because, whenever we think about, for Taiwanese, whenever we think about America, we just think about tornadoes. Basically, that's what we think about, the natural disasters in America.
And in USA, all we hear about is typhoon.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So we're just thinking, wait, does Taiwan do anything else but have a typhoon? I mean, even say in the name, Taiwan, typhoon. Yeah, it's just, it's an interesting situation. So we hope you enjoyed today's episode as we talk about the differences between our countries as well as our experiences with some of these. Mm-hmm. So, Anita, we're just going to dive on in today. Can you tell us one of the most common natural disasters that everyone knows in Taiwan?
Sure. The very first one you already mentioned, which is typhoon. Mm-hmm. And in Taiwan, it happens during summertime.
Okay.
But, like right now, global warming, extreme weather, things like that. Sometimes it could happen even when it's like November or December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's not very common. Usually it's still like summertime. It's like peak season for typhoon, like June, July, October.
Oh, I see.
Did I say October? Sorry, August.
August. Oh, I see.
August.
I thought they skipped a couple months.
Yes.
We'll
just come back later.
Yeah. Don't forget about me.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. But you're saying it's just usually around summer.
Summer.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories from my other foreign friends who've lived in Taiwan for quite a long time where typhoons would be so strong where trees would fly.
That's true.
And like afterwards, the streets would be destroyed.
Yeah.
Cars would be smashed. Scooters would look like pieces of paper just torn to bits.
That's a little bit
extreme. Well, my imagination runs wild.
Yeah.
But when I lived in Taiwan, I never experienced the typhoon to be too extreme. I mean, it rained and it poured.
Yeah.
And it flooded a little, but it wasn't too intense.
Because of the places you are, when you're in Taiwan, you are in the west side of Taiwan, and in just a simple geography about Taiwan, that we in the center, that we have the mountains area.
Right.
Right. So the huge mountains are in the center, in the middle of Taiwan. And most of the time during the summertime, the normal situation is the typhoon will come from south and goes east.
Oh, it goes east.
Yes.
Okay.
So usually, Taidong, Hualien, the east side is like direct impact from typhoon. And what happened to the west side is because we have the barrier, the mountains, the barrier. So usually we won't get direct impact. So what we have, what you said, heavy rain, pouring rain, and sometimes the wind could be a little bit crazy. But most of the situations like this,
Okay.
It did happen like before, like Taichung, where we spend most of our time, like Taichung and Tainan. We have when I was a kid, I remember that a few times the trees will like fell down and the scooters would just like smash together, and the windshield will be broken because some like a sign, like like McDonald's signs, like big signs will fall.
Wow.
And to like smash something. It did happen.
It did happen.
But not very rare because we are lucky we're in the west side of Taiwan.
Oh, it's very rare.
Yeah.
I see. So, but people who live in Hualien and Taidong, they kind of get screwed.
Yeah.
Is that why most people don't live on the on the east side of Taiwan?
Probably one of the many reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they don't want their babies to fly in the middle of the air and be taken away.
We don't have tornadoes. Speaking of that, it's really interesting. Whenever we think about like natural disasters in Taiwan, we will think about everything just fly because of tornado, like even the cows and everything.
Houses,
cows, animals.
Witches, Donald Trump. I don't know. Obama.
The toupee. Anyways, so is that really like what is that really happen when a tornado hits?
Do things fly? Well, they don't stay intact. Okay, so there are things that do get sucked up by a tornado, and it really just depends on the strength of the tornado. For example, one of the biggest tornadoes in the U.S. was called the Tri-State Tornado.
Tri-State?
It's because it was so big that it went through 3 different states.
Oh my god!
Okay, so when it went through the states, it just shredded houses. So houses won't be lifted in the air. All the pieces of the houses will be lifted in the air, but all separated.
Oh my god!
Think about it like a suction cup. When it's sucking something so hard that pieces...
It won't be the one piece.
No, it'll all be separated. Yeah. When it comes to cars, some cars would be lifted in the air, but they won't just like stay in the tornado like movies show. Okay. What happens is that they get spit out somewhere and then it will like hit something else or something like that. So it's just basically this cycle, similar to a drain, except backwards. A drain in a sink, it will suck everything down the hole, but a tornado will push everything up the hole. Yeah, exactly. So that's how usually tornadoes work. Most people in those situations, they hide in their tornado cellars, which is basically underground, not where tornadoes can't get you.
Like in Taiwan, we are one island and it's very small. So usually, one typhoon can, impact all areas in Taiwan.
Right.
And, it's predictable. So I guess my question for you for a tornado is, one, is it happen all around USA or just certain area? And two, is it predictable?
This is a very good question. So I'll answer the first one. It's not throughout all the United States. It's only through certain dry areas, mainly places that are in the southeastern part of the USA. It's just the kind of terrain that really suits tornadoes. It's flat, lots of wind, and so they're capable of sustaining their momentum for a long period.
Okay.
If it was hilly, then they would not be able to do as well because they need flat land to have the consistent wind.
The structure will be strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Tornadoes are quite flimsy, so they're very easy to stop if they are not huge. So, in other words, if it's a hilly area, they're not going to be able to keep going.
Makes sense.
So, a lot of places in the USA is hilly. That's why we don't have them anywhere else except places like Kentucky, Tennessee, and these kind of states. And your second question was...
Is it predictable?
Predictable. This is a really good question. There are tornado experts who could probably warn the people ahead of time if a tornado is going to be extreme or not. But it depends on the clouds. So basically, if you see really dark clouds and it's windy that day, there is called a tornado warning. And so very similar to if there's an earthquake, you would have a tsunami warning, a tidal wave warning, so.
I see.
There's a chance that it could happen, but it's not 100%.
Precise.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
So we call this a forecast, but the chances of it happening are not always accurate.
I see. Interesting. I would be so scary if that happened to
Yeah.
my house or something.
I mean, we've had tornadoes in Oregon before.
Really?
Yeah, but they're very, very small because we're hilly. So you can see them in the distance, be like, hey, Mom, is that a tornado? I'd be like, yeah, but
it could be.
It's not going to become anything huge.
I see.
So, it really just depends on where you are. But they are scary. They are scary. If they get really, really big, they can destroy lots of stuff.
My God.
Like, have you ever seen the movie Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know how those tornadoes got humongous?
Yeah.
If those were real, they would destroy cities.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They're very scary. Their speeds are incredible.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Taiwan again, with
Sure.
the earthquakes, right? So recently, in Hualien and Taitung, there have been not just one, but a consecutive amount of earthquakes.
Yeah.
And, have they been extreme? Have they caused a lot of damage?
I know that one that happened the first time. They are, like you say, they happened in a few times. But the first time it did happen, like I saw news. There was a 7-Eleven. It's like a building and a 7-Eleven, and the whole building was collapsed.
It collapsed.
Yeah, it collapsed. And I did an update recently, but at that time when it was, the news says there will be one death and few hurts. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah. In Taiwan, most of the time the earthquake happened. We had one very, very big earthquake in history. It's called 921. So 921. I'm pretty sure every Taiwanese people know that. It happened like more than 20 years ago. And when that time happened, it's like really very serious situation.
Really?
Yeah.
How old were you when that happened?
I think I was in elementary school, like second grade, or I think, second grade.
I heard it was very intense in like Nantou.
Yeah, it starts from Nantou, Jiji, a small town in Nantou. So it's very close to Taichung because Nantou is in the
Middle of Taiwan.
Middle of Taiwan, so it's kind of like how do you call it?
Expanded?
Expanded, yes, sorry. Expanded to cities. So Taichung is pretty big. I remember there was like 7.
Oh, wow.
Level
That's
was
pretty
like
high.
7 or 6.
I know that a lot of things in Nantou collapsed.
Yeah, like
Like
totally
even
destroyed.
there's a really famous temple that got completely destroyed.
You saw that temple, right?
Yeah. What was the name of the temple?
I don't remember.
Fancy Meow. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just call it
It's
Fancy
in
Meow.
Gigi. Everybody knows that because they kept the old one and they built a new one next to
a
it.
replica, right? The one that looks exactly the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a thing. The side people can go see and like see what happened at the time. The reason when I mentioned about this incident is because after that, most of the people started to pay attention to this kind of earthquake, the natural disaster. So when it built, in Taiwan, we have like tall houses,
Right.
buildings, apartments.
Right.
And ever since that, we have a law or, those constructive company, when they build the new houses, they will use the column is like stronger, and the building, the material they're using is supposed to be earthquake and be supposed
Like they
to be
withstand the
stabilized.
shake, right?
Yes. So not after that incident happened about more than 20 years ago, not many houses collapsed.
Is that right?
Yeah, but in this time the houses collapsed. You can tell that it's like an old building. Maybe
Before that,
before
921.
921. Yes.
Oh. Interesting. So it sounds something very similar to Japan. Previously, before, Japan is very similar to Taiwan, where there is just earthquake after earthquake. And so they had to develop technology similar to this, and all of their modern buildings have them. But if they have an earthquake in the older area, then you'll always see at least 1 or 2 buildings collapse because they just don't have this kind of support.
Yes.
It's very interesting. This kind of reminds me of a really big earthquake that happened in Los Angeles back in, I think it was the 1980s. I could be wrong on the year, but basically, we don't have a lot of earthquakes in the U.S., but they do happen a lot just in the California region. And so we will, previously, before that technology of having those poles withstand earthquakes, you just saw fire, buildings
That's
corrupted.
so
Just even the highways, highways used to be elevated.
Yeah.
And so parts of the highway would actually fall to the lower level, smashing people and cars below them.
God.
It was very intense. So yeah, the technology has definitely gone a long way when it comes to withstanding against some natural disasters.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I think that, that's a good thing because, we both, everybody knows that earthquakes, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right? When you don't know when it's going to happen and you don't know when it's going to stop.
Yeah.
There is no cause. There is no reason why it happened.
Right.
So I would say earthquake is like the most scary natural disasters.
Would you say so?
Yeah.
I mean, especially for maybe Taiwanese people because of what happened with Joe Er-yi.
Yeah.
And, there's that shaking of the tectonic plates.
Yeah.
You're underneath, your country is right above one of them, two of them.
2 or 3.
Yeah. And so because of that, you're constantly being wiggled around.
Yeah.
Just, hey, I'm just going to shake it here, shake it there. So, it definitely seems like, something to be afraid of. I mean, I was too when I lived in Taiwan. That's a story. We do not, what?
Wasn't even big. It's like 2 or 3, and that time we were in Taichung.
We're on the 13th floor.
But still, it's just like, okay. To be fair, okay. So because I've been through a lot of like big earthquake, like 5, 6, 7. So when that like 2 or 3 happened in the house, I was like, oh, it's an earthquake. And this guy was just like, should we run? Should we do? I was like, no, sit down. It's fine.
It's gonna be all right, Eric. I'm looking in the past. I'm also looking at Eric. So Eric, you need to calm down.
Yes.
But Eric was very, very nervous about that. That poor Eric.
Yes, seriously.
I was more worried about the fishes because the fishes
we have
were
fish tank.
Yeah, we had a fish tank and like all the fish were about to like splash out.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
My first experience with an earthquake was actually in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was at a school and it was during the summer as well. Or no, actually around September. What is with September and having earthquakes?
I have no idea.
But all of a sudden, we heard in Japan they have a way to notify you that there's an earthquake coming on your phone.
Oh, it's the same in Taiwan.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we have that.
But I think they're more accurate than Taiwan because sometimes in Taiwan when there's an earthquake,
5 minutes later, there's an earthquake.
Exactly.
But I gotta say, when we were here in the USA last year or a few months ago, I think it's a few months ago, there was also a pretty big earthquake happened, and most of my students say they got a notification before the earthquake, so they must, accurate it.
They updated their technology, their software.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have like iOS 5 now instead of 4.
Anyway.
Anyways,
this person loved Japan a little bit too much, so.
They got like literally seconds before the earthquake.
Before the earthquake.
They're like hide, and all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden I hear people. Oh my god! It's like, oh my god, what is happening, Mama? And all the Japanese people are looking at me, and I'm just like, what? Is that not a big earthquake? They're all like a little scared. But it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And so that was my first earthquake.
Okay. Did you run?
I was just holding onto the table really tightly. I think I was also holding like my supervisor's shoulder really tightly because he was like saying "itai, itai, itai." He was saying "ow, ow, ow," and I was like, "Oh, sorry." Just so scared. Oh
my god, Eric.
And so that was my first time. The second time was also in Japan. And this one's funny because it was a bigger earthquake. It was like a 5 or a 6. And then it was in the middle of the morning. And I was in my house by myself in my bed. And all of a sudden, I wake up and I'm just seeing the whole world shaking around me. And I'm
Was
just
your hangover?
yeah, it wasn't a hangover, but for some reason it just felt so good. Like I was just like a baby being cradled by
crib.
mommy, and I was just like, oh, this is so. I didn't even. Yeah,
You fell back
I
to
felt like
sleep?
asleep. I woke up, everything was fine, and I go to work, and all the Japanese were like, "Yabai, yabai, everything's like so crazy right now. Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?" I have no idea what happened, and then they told me there was an earthquake. I was like, "Oh, really?"
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, oh, that's why I felt so good. And they were like, "You slept? Oh, such an American."
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah, so that was my experience with earthquakes.
Speak of sleep through the earthquake.
What's up?
There is a person I know, we mentioned about Joe He's like 921 is like super, super, super big.
Yeah.
So there is a person I know. She slept through the whole earthquake.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. So
Powerful.
the person is me.
Oh my God. It's a revealing.
All right. So here's my story. At that time, when it happened, I was, I mentioned I was like second grader in elementary school. Only my sister and I at home because we have to go to school the next day. So usually my mom and my dad, they will send us back home first, so we can get a bed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
My parents at that time, they have like a food stand. So they were outside. In our house, only me and my second sister.
Mm-hmm.
So when 921 happened, I was, I don't know what happened. I remember the story begins when I woke up.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go pee. It's in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw my dad,
Yeah.
like really nervous. And my sister was like crying, has like tear in her face. I was like, what is happening?
It
I
was
was
the
like,
end of the world.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And my dad would just keep on yelling, telling me to grab my jacket because it was a really cold day. I remember.
Wow. Taiwan cold.
Yeah, my dad was like, go get your jacket. I was like, why do I want to go pee? And then all of a sudden there was like second after shake, like there was a big one and there would be aftershake. And then aftershake happened as my very first time experience earthquake. I was like, oh my God. And then that's when I started to realize something big happened. And then
The world was hungry.
Yeah.
And it was looking for Anita to eat.
So
Oh, no.
I didn't even, at that time, I didn't even notice that was a huge deal. So the next day, it's not even the next day, it's like until like 4 or 5 in the morning, the whole city was no electricity.
Wow.
No TV, no nothing. Remember, this is more than 20 years ago, so we don't have cell phones. Even you have cell phones, there is no signal. You cannot even make a phone call. No internet, no everything. So people were just, really just like old movies. We would stay together to listen to the radio. That radio can use battery. They don't use, plugged in or whatever. So we listened to this, catastrophic kind of news like it happened in Nantou. And in Nantou, it's like, right now it's like the city was totally destroyed.
Wow.
And that's when we realized, oh my God, this is like very
Intense.
big,
Yeah.
intense earthquake. And I remember for like a few days, the government said you should not go home. So every day, my father, my dad would just drive us, all of us, in the car and to park in the park.
Wow.
And just to sleep there. Or, if you're lucky you got tent, you just camp there in the park because the park doesn't have like tall buildings.
Right.
Like I said, the technology is not so good back then, so they don't know what will happen again. So all they can do is just evacuate you from your house because building
Right.
will cause, collapse or killing people.
So would you say this is the reason why a lot of people are traumatized with around September and earthquakes?
We'll be right back.
I really like journaling, but I always end up with no time or cannot find a journal that I really like. So I was like, hey, let me create one. So here it is, a self-help journal created and designed by Anita. Inside the book, I provide very simple and easy to follow template. For example, in the morning, to-do list. In the evening, gratitude practice. So you can use a very little time to start this healthy habit. Go ahead and check it out in our description down below or go to our buymeacoffee.com. I think so. And we cannot help to make the connection. Whenever the September happened, that reminds Taiwanese people like 20 years ago, there was this huge earthquake, things like that. I mean, it's really like coincidence. All happened during this time.
Right.
Again, it's unpredictable. So I don't know.
Well,
if there's a connection or not.
Do you think, like Taiwanese people, is there any like reassuring words that you'd want us to tell all your Taiwanese fans and the foreigners who are scared in Taiwan during earthquakes?
Again, it's right now all the technologies and the government is trying. I know like government is trying their best
They're
to
on it.
try. Yeah, they're on it. Like I said, when we're in Taiwan, it's like 2 years ago. The alarm on your phone is not so accurate. But right now, a couple months ago, my student told me they're in Taiwan. They told me, they got the notification and the alarm before the earthquake. So I'm pretty sure that's like already the improvement, the government trying to, prevent the same thing from happening.
Which is great.
Yeah. So I would say, when any things happen, like earthquake, do what you can do, but you don't have to always like live in this the scarcity kind of mind,
That's good. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's really good that the Taiwanese government has decided to, really take action steps to be able to improve evacuations, reassurance, any sort of aid that people may need during these times. And also like we will do as well, is that there's many ways to donate money to people in need that there wasn't in the past. So having, funding and resources available instantly to be able to help people feel comfortable or be able to have food, water, shelter, whatever,
Exactly.
is become much easier and accessible than back in the day, which is, I think, a fantastic thing. This reminds me of like the hurricanes situation in the United States. Just happened last week. Hurricane Ian, one of the biggest hurricanes that we've seen since Hurricane Katrina. And it's just basically ripped through Florida, and the connecting states. It's been a very, scary time for a lot of people because, even though you could prepare as much as you want for, a catastrophic natural disaster, but if it comes at you out of nowhere, like an earthquake, or in this situation, Hurricane Ian, it came out of nowhere. Like usually hurricanes are predictable. They come from, the eastern side of the Atlantic Ocean. But this one specifically, for those who don't know much about what just happened, it came from the western side of Florida and in the Gulf. And so it took everyone by surprise, and no one was really able to prepare to evacuate, leaving thousands of people, homeless, and unable to, evacuate. And so the good news, though, is like I was just previously mentioning, is that there are lots of ways to donate money to these kind of people these days, where they're capable of, staying protected. I mean, you get attacked and affected by a natural disaster nonetheless, but there's still ways to be able to help them after the fact, after what we call the aftermath. So, I think this is just a wonderful thing. And if while you're listening to this and you're thinking about wanting to donate to these kind of causes, we're going to have some links in the description in today's episode for you to do so. So make sure to send some funding to the people in need if you feel the need to do so.
Thank you so much for the information, Eric.
Sure thing. Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk about with natural disasters today, Anita?
Well, I think it's just the story, I just really wanted to share. Even though like the big earthquake that happened recently is like very scary, but really compares to 20 years ago, I feel really, really grateful for all the resources that we have. And because of that, 921 happened. I feel like all the rescue team and the government and firefighters, they have the experience.
Right.
And we have like drills.
Yeah, good drills.
Good drills, from time to time. So when the things that happen like this, they will be able to, even though earthquake is unpredictable, but after that, they will know how to rescue in the very first minutes. Like they say there will be like 72 hours golden time frames to save people. So I think they are all well trained, so they are react very well. One last story I wanted to share is, back to 921. After a few days of the earthquake, we have no contact with anybody, and my aunt, which is my father's oldest sister, she lived in Gigi, which is when the earthquake happened.
Yeah.
So we finally know that she's okay, but we know that the situation there is pretty bad. I remember my dad at that time is, right now you can see a lot of like convenience store. We have, like bento or food, like microwave food, they can donate. I've seen that the 7-Eleven or convenience store, they donate those kind of food to the area that had got hit by the victims. Yes. So convenient.
Yeah.
20 years ago, when we tried to donate food, there is nothing you can donate. So what we donate is like flour.
Oh, wow.
Rice, those kind of things, salt, because those are kind of the things,
the only thing that you can use. Yeah.
To make food, So I always remember it's my dad like bought like really like, big bags of flours, rice, and things like that. We take it to the Gigi. And the whole time, my mom and my dad just told me to, look down, don't look outside. So at that time, I thought they thought I'd be afraid to look at the houses collapse or something.
Yeah.
But actually not. Now I know it's all dead body on the ground.
Oh my God.
That's what happened like 20 years ago. We don't know what to do because nothing told us what to react to it.
Yeah. Did you look outside?
I did not. I'm like a obedient kid, so I didn't do it.
So you didn't traumatize yourself?
I didn't. But based on what they say, it's like all bodies on the ground. They don't know what to do. It just happened all of a sudden. We don't even know how to react. So I think the point here is natural disaster, what we call natural disaster, is come from nature. What we can do, respect the nature. When it happens, we cannot predict. But how we react, I think is the point here.
Well said. I think you're absolutely right. With the reactions now, we've learned from our previous mistakes on how to, make sure that we protect ourselves from any sort of these kind of mistakes in the future.
Yeah.
Very similar to COVID. It's not related to natural disasters, but Taiwan did a fantastic job because of the previous experiences with like SARS. So USA has definitely have learned from its mistakes as well from this, like with hurricanes and earthquakes, even fires, like that's another humongous natural disaster that we have, especially where we live in the USA. Fires are plentiful because of global warming, and so it's a constant battle of trying to learn how to fight this giant boss, this monster known as Mother Nature. And so it's a thing that, I think is very important to understand, but also remember that even though we have control over our lives, doesn't mean we have control over the world. And we should respect Mother Nature for what it is, because it gives us life, but can also easily take it away.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good place to end this episode.
I think so.
Well, Anita, thank you so much for sharing your experiences of Taiwan.
Oh, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to share my experiences of the United States. Thank you for making a comment about it.
Your earthquake experience.
Yes, my earthquake experience. Yes. Aha. Yes. Okay. It was a wonderful time. I mean, and so just as a friendly reminder, we love coffee. We love it so much that we would love you to buy us coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Taiwanica. All right. Taiwanica. There's no ka, okay?
Sorry.
So just Taiwanica. We would love that. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
We would love to make more episodes like this, so give us the support.
Give us a coffee, by the way. It's not by the way, it's just the message.
Just do it.
Just do it.
All right.
We love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Taiwanica. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.